Welcome to The Mind is Psychic, where we talk music, addiction, comedy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2. I'm going to continue the discussion of addiction. Per asam.org, their addiction reads: Addiction is a treatable chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual's life experiences. People with addiction use substances or engage in behaviors that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. The reason I bring up the definition is because I want to set the foundation of the umbrella. And I want to talk about the different addictions, and they range anything from drugs, including alcohol, opioids, that whole gamut, all the way to food, shopping. It's just anything can be an addiction. I see it as you take anything to the extreme, it's an addiction. When I stopped drinking, I went into another addiction. That's what I honestly believe. You go from one to the other. You try to control it the best you can, but it to me it was one of those, okay, I'm not going to drink, but I need to take all that time and all that energy and put it into something. So I went ahead and focused my energies in other things. And what I've learned is take your time, especially when you're right in recovery. It's super important that you have an idea. And if you need to map it out, do it, because that's what I did. If you need to write it down, you need to type it, whatever, have an idea of expectations, why are you doing it, and so on and so forth. Because every day you're going to fight. Every day. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. Why do I say that? Because I did it. And I've said, well, if I can do it, anyone can do it, but it also takes initiative and the ability to open up and to get to the root. I also think that my addiction and me having an understanding, and I've learned so much, because when you're in that frame of mind where you don't you just don't care, you have no idea, because you're not feeling yourself, because you're so ingrained in that addiction. What I like to do is, now I say this when I do groups and stuff, that's the time when you have to be selfish, because you're in a particular situation where at that point that you're sober and you're recovering, even though you got family, you have a career, you're doing this, that, having, being able to be selfish, even though you were selfish your entire time of addiction, understanding recovery is the utmost importance. And talking to people, once you get comfortable, for me, it was reading, talking to people, finding those hobbies, those positive, uplifting moments. Well, not all, every day, like I mentioned, is it's difficult. Also a routine. Routine day in and day out is another important thing. So let's take alcohol for instance. Whether it be liquor, whether it be beer, nobody's born wanting to be an addict. For me personally, I think it had a lot to do with how I was raised, my parents, my environment, socioeconomic, and you see these, and then entertainment, and you see how people react. You see the psychology behind it and then when you start picking it up, it gives you that feeling of, oh, I can have two, no big deal. Then you go to three, then you go to four, then you go to six, then you do a 12 pack, a case. Oh, and then let's add a fifth of this or that. And when you do that continuously, not only you wreaking havoc on your body, on your mind, but everybody around you. You don't think that you're doing anything wrong. Even if you are the most caring individual, you're going to come off sometimes as just a mean person. And that's what I you don't want to you don't want to live in reality. You lie, and especially with me, I just I lied so much, not about super super important stuff, like about the smallest minutia of stuff, because from an inside perspective, when I was lying, I didn't be naive. It's being out of that frame of reality. Like, oh, did you drink? No, no, I didn't drink. Yeah, you smell like a damn brewery. Come on. But let me tell you, once you get to that point, and once you go through, for me, it was like 6 months of recovery, and every day it got better and better and better. And then when I went into, behavioral health, that those those members, it was almost like I was almost in there with them. And because when you do groups, when you facilitate groups, you read just like them, you get different point of views and stuff. So for me, not only was I working and trying to help them, they were helping me at the same time because it gives different perspectives. And then beforehand, you have all this, you have to find the subjects, you have to do this, you have to do that in order to be ready to share it with the group. I mean, like, whether it's curriculum based or what have you. And I always loved working and learning. So when I was facilitating these groups, I got a lot out of it. And I just kept at it. And every day, even though it's hard, it's still a lot easier than day one. The addiction part, it's ugly. I had no idea at the time that I stopped the mental aspect of it, the difficulty, the retraining of your brain, and learning the right coping skills. Very, very important. So, I went from, as I mentioned before, alcohol, then I became a workaholic, then I was so focused on making the last 10 years up where I was just saving as much as I could. And it was that whole addiction was still in my brain. And I honestly think you never lose it. I honestly think you have that. If you have a addictive personality, you're going to keep it. You just got to figure out the right addictions, I guess, and everything in moderation. Early on, I knew that I needed to change my ways, but I still enjoyed the aspects of like going to the bar, talking to people, and that sort of thing. So instead of ordering a drink, I would order like a club soda, I would order like a Coke, something like that. And it's that you still participate in conversations, you still socialize, that whole thing. But from that point, I knew that was going to be all around me. So I needed to figure out a way how I was going to cope, how I was going to be able to go out and learn to control it, not to have the drink, no matter how difficult it was. I needed to make sure that I was being true to myself. So when you're talking to people and everything like that, there's going to be situations in your life. That's why it's so important that you have the foundation set first. You learn that. And then once you get that down, you can build and build and build. You can't go from 0 to 60, 0 to 100 in no time. It takes time. It's not a race. You can try time and time again to do it, to stop. And then something happens, and then you start it up again. You come off the wagon and it happens. I've always been in my mind, and I think most of us were way harder on ourselves than others. Meaning, I'm okay if somebody else relapses because it happens. But internally, if I was to, I would feel ashamed that I wasn't successful. But thank God that I didn't. I haven't relapsed, and it's been over 5 years. Sorry, September 15th, 2019. And you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that a lot from me because I think I need to drive that in to myself and to others. So then I went on from, I was in the whole field. I'm in that field and I'm working a lot. Basically, I'm just working, but I'm still staying in recovery because that's the most important thing. Still an addict, but instead of, like I said, instead of drinking, I'm now eating, not watching my diet, um, not really, I'm just on autopilot. Just work, work, work. But I believe that I can get it under control. I've learned take it slow. Well, that's all for today, folks. I'll talk to you later. See you next time.